Oh, got a bit of frog in my throat. Hi, I'm Claire and I run Delicious and Real, and I'm here to talk to you about being more sustainable in the kitchen. So I thought I'd start off telling you a little bit about myself and my business that I run. So I'm a mum. I've got two children. I've got a teenager, so my daughter will be 14 in January, and my son is in year six. He's 10. He'll be 11 next year. I'm also a part-time teacher, although I'm currently teaching full-time, which has made meal planning an even bigger part of my life, and I'll get onto that a bit more later. Um, and that's it about me personally. So my business, I started Delicious and Real, which is an editable online meal planner. I started it back in July. I've been blogging about it for about 3.5 years now, maybe 4 years even. So I've been using my social media presence to help inspire and motivate people to plan their meals and cook from scratch. My main reason for doing that was it came through grief. I lost my dad and both my brothers recently, so in the past 3 years. So part of it came from grief and my awareness that eating, cooking from scratch and eating non-processed food is certainly for me was the way forward. Also, the power of food. I felt that food was a vehicle for me to show how much I cared, and I would take meals to my dad when he was ill and to my brother when he was ill. So food became a way of showing I cared and a way of doing something. When someone gets a terminal illness, you feel completely helpless. There is nothing you can do. Everything's taken out of your control. So cooking meals and taking meals round just became something I could do, and it made me feel that I was actually doing something, even if it was something really small. So that's part of my reason. Another reason is the sustainability link. I've been aware, for a long time now about the amount of waste we have. When you get your shopping delivered or you bring your shopping home, once you've unpackaged everything, the amount of excess packaging, it astounded me. And then there's been a lot on the telly about food waste and about the amount of waste, and I'll come on to some statistics later, but the amount of food we waste here in the UK, again, it's absolutely shocking. So, meal planning for me has a couple of main benefits. So I'm going to go through that now and talk about meal planning, because for me, this is the number one way that you can be more sustainable in the kitchen. And if you Google sustainability in the kitchen, this does come up top. So meal planning, how does it make you more sustainable? First thing is you're using up the food you've got. So when I start meal planning, the first thing I recommend people do is that you write an inventory of what's in all your cupboards, in your fridge and in your freezer, and use that as your starting point for your first meal plan. I did this during lockdown actually, and I got to the bottom of my freezer. We had some quite interesting combinations of things I found, which I'd forgotten to add. I'm not quite sure what happened. I don't know if it was my Wi-Fi, but I still seem to be able to comment. So I'm not sure. So I'm hoping it will carry on now. So if you put a comment, let me know that you can see and hear me. That's really strange. That's never happened to me before. And my husband's been working from home for ages. It's all been working. Right, I've lost my thread where I was. So it was writing a shopping list. Always have a shopping list when you go to the supermarket, because shopping without a list, we've all been there. You walk in, you're feeling hungry, you haven't got a list, and you end up with all stuff you don't want. And actually, although you've spent, £80 on your shopping, you don't have enough food to make any meals. So you still have that feeling of opening the fridge doors, looking in the fridge, saying, I don't know what to make for dinner. So number one, main thing, reduces your food waste. Meal planning also saves you money because again, you're only buying what you need. It also leads to healthier choices. You're much more mindful about what you eat when you meal plan, because you look down the list of meals and you think, actually, look, we've had, we're going to end up with pasta 3 days, so I'm going to, take out two of them and substitute it. Or for me, we have meat free twice a week. So we go meat free normally on a Monday and a Thursday. So always on a Monday. And I try and get in 2 days a week. I would do more, but my husband's not too keen. And going meat free has a massive impact on your sustainability. That's really, really important. Again, it's in the press all the time about how we should be eating more meat, eating more plant-based. I've got lots and lots of recipes on my website, which are ones which my whole family will eat. Even my husband, who is he's a proper carnivore. He's not a big fan of vegetarian or vegan food, but even he has to admit that the ones that I give him, they are substantial. I try and make sure, they're filling. It's not just a plate of, a plate of rabbit food, as he would say. So it makes you more mindful of what you eat. Reduction in your food waste, also a reduction in the amount of packaging in your supermarket trolley, in your basket. Because again, you only buy what you need. You literally buy. So I now shop from my fruit and vegetables. I used to buy from the supermarket, but I found that when I was meal planning, I only wanted 1 leek for my dinner. And I'm using that example because I'm using leeks today. I only wanted 1 leek, but in the supermarket, I could only get them in packs of 3. Packs of 3, I don't want 3 leeks. I'm not going to eat 3 leeks. So I've started shopping from a local fruit and veg stall, and that has significantly reduced the amount of packaging that I've got. It can be slightly more expensive, but the quality of the vegetables and the fruit, um, it's not comparable to those I buy in the supermarket. For example, I often buy berries, so I'll buy a tub of blueberries or raspberries or strawberries. I'll buy them on a Friday, and we are still eating them the following week. So they haven't gone bad. If I buy them from the supermarket, I find they last a couple of days, and then my children are already complaining that they've gone squishy and they don't like them. So meal planning, number one, top tip for going sustainable. Now I've just seen that someone's put in the comments, do I have any meat-free ideas? Because her hubby wants meat-free, meat with every meal. Yeah, big problem. I find meat-free curries work really well. So my husband will happily eat, I do a dal, or I'll do a potato and cauliflower curry. So meat-free curries, anything with halloumi tends to go down well. We often have halloumi burgers, or I'll make some flatbreads and do halloumi with flatbreads. That's more of a summer meal for me. I do a cottage pie and replace the meat with lentils. So I do a red lentil cottage pie, red lentil bolognese. Pasta's a really good way of going meat free. I find with pasta, no one notices, just roast loads and loads of different vegetables and then just make a nice simple tomato sauce and mix it all together. I've got lots, I can't think of them now. What I'll do is after I've done this, I will post a list of ideas. You've put me on the spot now and I can't think, I'm trying to think what I've got on Monday. I know what we've got on Monday. We're having filled pasta shells. So giant pasta shells, and then I make a mixture of some garlic, cheese and some spinach, make a tomato sauce and bake them in the oven. That's lovely. And the kids really love that one. What else have we got? Filled jacket potatoes. So instead of just a jacket potato with some butter and a portion of beans poured on the top, I cook the potatoes, scoop out the middles and mash it up with, I do it with cheese and broccoli, pesto's really nice, mix through it, some spring onions, and mix it with anything. But just taking out the middle and mixing it up makes it feel like more of a meal, and they're softer. And again, the children then eat more of the potato. I find they're more willing to eat more of the potato. But I will, after this, I will put up a list of ideas for you to give you some more ideas. Okay, now I've gone off track. That's what I do. See, I'm a teacher. I'm very good at going off track with what I'm saying and getting sort of children ask me questions and you go down a completely different route and then you find you run out of time in your lesson. So reducing food waste, something that we all need to do in the kitchen. And I've actually got some statistics here, which I found from which the majority of food waste in the UK does come from UK households. So it's not coming from the hospitality industry, it's coming from us at home. And we waste 108 kilograms of food per person at home each year, which is shocking when you think of what that food could do. And lots of that food is food that could be eaten. It's food that people have bought and decided they don't want and they've thrown it out. Vegetables that are looking a little bit soft and they just you can still eat them. The majority of food, if you cook it, I mean obviously you've got to be careful with your meat and your chickens, but vegetables, I quite often have carrots which when you peel them they're really bendy and they look a bit funny. If you cook them they're absolutely fine. They actually cook quicker than if they're hard carrots. They may have the lower nutrient value, you may have lost some of the nutrients because of the age, but apart from that, use them, don't throw them out. And 17.7% of the food we buy gets thrown away. So we are literally buying it and throwing it away. So we're throwing money away. And then with the hospitality industry, 1 in 6 meals are wasted in hospitality. And I think actually that's going to go up now. When you think of this new rule that if you go out, if you want to go to the pub, you have to have a substantial meal. I think lots of people will be buying, it's not a substantial meal, but they'll be buying food and they don't want it. And so there's going to be a lot more waste, over the coming months if this rule stays in hospitality. And it's something I feel quite passionate about, food waste, which is why I plan all my meals. We have a food waste caddy I don't know if Bedford Council does the collections, but our local council, our food waste is actually collected and we're all given a green caddy, which they collect every week with our bins. And I've got a smaller one on my kitchen worktop and everything goes in it. But even though we're a family of 4, my caddy's about this size, so it's not very big. I fill it up twice in a week. And all that goes in there, the only food waste we have are vegetable peelings, bones from, if we have a roast chicken, and I do always make gravy or a stock from them. So although they're going in the food waste, they have been used. So it's just something to be mindful of. Just think about that food waste and think, can I repurpose it? What can I do? Often, if I've got vegetables, so we went away for half term, we did a last minute holiday to Brighton for the week, which was lovely, just before the next lockdown. And just before we went, my mother-in-law very kindly sent me this beautiful vegetable box from a local fruit and veg company, and it was amazing, and it had so much stuff in it, but I couldn't get through it before we went away. And so what I did was I cooked a lot of the vegetables. So I roasted them in the oven and then I froze them. And they're perfect. You can use them in pastas, you can use them in sauces. They're not as good as roasting them fresh. They're not as good as cooking them fresh, but it's better than throwing them away. Tomatoes, if you grow tomatoes and have a glut of tomatoes, they're a really good one just to roast. And often have, I'll pull some roasted tomatoes from the summer out of my freezer. I'll defrost them and then I'll just have them on a slice of sourdough toast with some tin sardines. So don't throw it away. Before you throw it away, just think, can I reuse it? I've just seen you said, how you can lobby. That's a really good question to ask the people of, who run this website of Sustainable Bedford. We were really lucky. Ours was just introduced and we've had it a good few years now. And I must admit, when it was first introduced, my mother and my mother-in-law were both aghast at the fact that I was collecting my food waste. And I must admit, I don't really see the difference between putting it in my food waste caddy and putting it in my bin, because they're both still in my kitchen. But they didn't like the idea at all. And I think that's part of the problem. I think there are lots of people out there who don't want to have their food waste. They find something a bit, and I don't know what it is, because it is no different. It doesn't smell. It's on the worktop, and then I just put it outside once it's full. And I don't put, food that's really mouldy and bad in it, because I don't have food like that. I've never had a problem. I know I found statistics the other day actually about food waste and about why people don't want to put it out. So it says that 35% of people don't want to recycle their food because they think it will smell. Well, I must admit, even in the summer, I don't think it smells. It leads to pests. And we've got these fantastic caddies with a lockable lid. So they've got the handle which locks them. Again, nothing can get in it. We've got a dog and she'll quite often go sniffing around it, especially if we've had a roast and she knows there's all the bones in it. She's never managed to open it. Unhygienic, again, just rinse it out. I've got it by the hose pipe if it's got some nice bin juices in the bottom, which is always a lovely phrase. Just use a hose pipe, give it a good squirt, give it a rinse. It's messy, again, not messy, and it's too much hassle. It's no hassle at all. So it would be, I think, if Bedford Council hasn't got this, it is something that I would, if I lived in Bedford, something that I would want introduced, because it is so easy. And then the local council take it away and they're composting it. So that all of that food waste that you've got is at least being reused. We go back, I've spoken, see, I keep going off track. This is what I do. I'm not very good at this. So another thing, so I've spoken about shopping lists and only buying what you need. Spoken about reducing your packaging. So if you meal plan, you are reducing the amount of packaging you've got. Using local fruit and vegetables, so instead of buying from the supermarket, and I know it's easy to buy from the supermarket, and it's very easy for me to say that because I don't work on a Friday, it's easy, but it does make it, and you're supporting a local business. And those lovely fruit and veg boxes you can get, and they work out quite cheap actually. The one my mother-in-law sent me, I think was £16, and it was really good value for money. We had an awful lot of fruit and vegetables in there, and it was all really good quality. And that was a company called, I think it was called Seasons Fruit and Veg, and I know they are local to the area. And it was, you know, you can pick it. She selects. So if you are a meal planner like me, I'm not a big fan of the surprise of getting a box delivered and not knowing what's coming. I like to know what's going to be in mine, but you can select what you want. So you can ask for, you know, next week I want peppers, onions, potatoes, and you can choose it, which again will reduce your food waste. But if you have got vegetables left over, just think about what you can make. I'm always making soups. I love my slow cooker, but only for soups and sauces. I'm not a fan of meals cooked in a slow cooker. It changes the texture. If I put meat in it, I find it changes the texture. But soups, I make all the time. I'm always taking soups to work. I just throw it all in and hope for the best. So if you've got some leftover vegetables, put them in the slow cooker, put in some seasoning. I often put in a bit of cumin. You can put in some Thai curry paste, really nice to give it a bit of a kick. Add some stock, vegetable stock, chicken stock, whichever stock you've got in the cupboard. Just put in a stock cube, a couple of stock cubes and some water. And then I just leave it on to cook all day. And then I blitz it and hope for the best. Taste it, add some seasoning. It's always really nice. I often add lentils, a handful of lentils to add a bit more goodness. That's another way to sort of bulk it out a bit. If I've got some kale or some cavolo nero, I add that at the very end. So chop it all up and at the end stir it through, and it makes it into more of a meal. So you just need to start being more creative with what you've got. Just think about, you know, what you've got and how you can use it. I'm just going to go back to my notes because I have lost my thread slightly. I know what I was going to talk about. Making your freezer your friend. If you want to be sustainable in the kitchen, you have to learn to love your leftovers, and you have to make your freezer your friend. My freezer is full of pots of leftover food. If there's anything left over, a portion of pasta, a portion of anything, it goes in the freezer. And you can freeze pretty much anything. Okay, pretty much anything can be frozen. It goes in the freezer and then it comes out again for lunches. So if I'm at home, I might have it for lunch. I take it to work, so we've got a microwave at work. My children take it to school, so they've got those little thermos flasks, so the ones that are sort of more round, more like a tub, and they've got those, and it keeps their lunch warm. So I fill it up with hot water in the morning to heat it through, heat the thermos flask through, warm up their lunch, pop it in the thermos flask, and it's still warm at lunchtime. So my children nearly always have leftovers, which makes my mornings much easier because all I've got to do is warm it up. I'm not worrying about what to actually, you know, make them. I'm not making sandwiches. I'm not, you know, running around trying to make anything. I've literally just got to warm it up. So love your leftovers, love your freezer. When you look at the most food that's thrown away in the UK, so the key foods that we do tend to waste, bread. We waste 20 million slices of bread every day. So every day in the UK, 20 million slices of bread are thrown away, which is shocking. And especially when you think about all the people, you know, our food banks are at breaking point. There are lots of people using them. There are lots of people who are living, you know, in food poverty, lots of children who are going without food. When you think about that, and we're wasting 20 million slices of bread, in our family, no bread is wasted. First thing I do, we don't get through a whole loaf. We're not really a bread eating family. And because we don't have sandwiches for lunch, we don't tend to get through that much. So the first thing I do when I buy a loaf of bread is I halve it and I put half in the freezer and half in the bread bin. That way the bread won't go bad. Another thing I do is the crusts, because no one really eats them in my family. I freeze the crusts, or any ends of, if we've bought a nice loaf and there's an end of it left and I know it's going a bit stale, any leftover bread gets frozen. And when I've got, you know, a fair few slices, I take it out of the freezer and I put it in my food processor and I blitz it into breadcrumbs. And then I will put my breadcrumbs in an old bread bag and I'll pop it back in the freezer. And then whenever I make chicken goujons or fish fingers or pork schnitzel's, another one of my recipes I do a lot, or chicken schnitzel. When I make anything that's breaded, I've got my own breadcrumbs in the freezer. So never waste bread. Just put it in the freezer, blitz it into breadcrumbs. Another one, 5.2 million glasses of milk. So again, astounding how much milk we waste. Milk can be frozen. The problem with freezing milk is if you freeze it in we don't have glass milk bottles, which is something I'm going to be looking into. But during lockdown, I think the milk became so popular, it's really hard to get on one of their rounds around here at the minute. So we still have milk in plastic containers, and I have frozen it in those before. And the problem is, it then takes ages to defrost, and you have to leave it out. And I'm always a bit worried of it going off. So it's best to freeze milk in smaller portions. So that even if you freeze it in an ice cube tray, but freeze it in smaller portions. And then if you're making a cheese sauce, you're making macaroni cheese, or you're making a lasagna, you can get out those blocks and you can use it in your sauces. Cheese is another thing that freezes. I think people forget that cheese freezes really well. At Christmas, if you buy, I always do buy some Stilton and you buy your nice cheeses, and then it comes to Christmas evening and you're all really full up and they don't get eaten. I often use it in a soup, but you can also freeze cheese. Just pop it in the freezer and then take it out. Great for cooking with, it's still edible. You can still eat it on a cheese board as well. So freeze your cheese. Potatoes are another thing that we waste a lot of. 4.4 million potatoes are wasted every day. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't tend to waste potatoes. I don't buy them in bulk. I don't buy my potatoes in big bags. I also keep my potatoes in the fridge. So whether that makes a difference, I don't know. But I don't have a problem with my potatoes going off. But if I was going away and I had some potatoes in my fridge and I knew I wasn't going to use them, I'd roast them. Peel them, roast them, pop them in the freezer. And then when you get them out of the freezer, you can just, it's quite trendy, isn't it? Twice roasted, double roasted. I'd just roast them again, so I'd double roast them. Mashed potato as well freezes really well. So you can make a load of mashed potato and then, pop it in the freezer. So you're not wasting those potatoes. Slices of ham, another one. So we waste 2.2 million slices of ham every day. Again, freeze it. If you know you're not going to use it, put it in the freezer. My children will sometimes have ham sandwiches, but we don't get through a whole pack. I'm not a massive fan of ham. So I tend to take out a couple of slices and put the rest in the freezer. You can even put the pack in the freezer and separate the slices with some greaseproof paper. And that way you can just take out a slice when you need it. Tomatoes is another one, 1.2 million tomatoes. I've already said I tend to pre-roast them, put them in the freezer roasted, or you can make a pasta sauce out of them and freeze the pasta sauce, or a sauce to go on pizza. Just use them, make a sauce and put it. It's a great thing to have in the freezer. To know that when you come home from work, you've had a really long day, you've got a nice simple pomodoro sauce in the freezer, and all you've got to do is, oh, sorry, my dog's just come running in. She's been out for a walk and come running in. I think my husband's going to, the door was shut, she's open. My husband's going to try and retrieve the dog. Hold on, I'm just going to take the dog and out of the room. Scouty, go that way. Oh, she can stay, go on.
You sure?
Yeah,
okay,
she's a bit wet.
People will like it.
She's wet. Sorry, this is the dog who's just come to say hello. She's just been for a walk. This is what happened, but she's very wet, and now my jumper is really muddy, so at least you can't see that far. The joys of being at home. I think it must be raining outside. So tomatoes, just make it into a tomato sauce and then pop it in the freezer, and then you've got it for a nice, easy after school or after work meal. What was my next one? Bananas. Now, I must admit, I'm very fussy about bananas, and I could easily waste a lot of them, because for me, a banana has to be yellow and it has to not smell of banana. The minute it starts smelling of banana, I don't want to eat it. So the minute it starts going black and it starts smelling banana-y, that's when I would potentially put it in the bin, but I don't. So what I do is I chop them up and I put them in a container and I pop them in the freezer. And then you can pull them out. They're great in smoothies, in pancakes, in yogurt, loads and loads of uses. Banana bread, obviously, that was the meal of the bake of lockdown, so you can make a banana bread with it. But don't throw most. Same with any fruit. I freeze, lots of fruit like that. So bananas, berries freeze really well. What else can I put in the freezer? There are lots and lots of things. I'll probably think of some more in a minute. But freezing your leftover fruit, really, really important. And then just, there are if you Google it, there are loads and loads of recipes for these leftovers. And you've just got to learn to love them and learn to embrace it and just really try it and drive down the amount of food waste. You give yourself, I did a challenge actually over on my Facebook page. And actually, if you sign up to my newsletter on my website, you'll get my recipe pack for free. And I did a zero waste challenge with a roast chicken. So I challenge people to buy a big roast chicken, so nice, so bigger than we'd normally eat for a family of four. So a big roast chicken, and on the Sunday I did a recipe for the roast chicken and loads of vegetables. So again, more vegetables than we'd normally eat, and then we utilised that for the rest of the week. So we had a chicken ramen on the Monday. For lunch, I made a vegetable soup with some of the leftover vegetables. I did a vegetable pie with the leftover vegetables. So it's all about being clever. So being clever, trying to save yourself time, because we're all time poor, we're all really busy, but also thinking about how you can reduce that waste and then save yourself money as well. So it benefits you in the long run in so many ways. So the dog's now going to fidget on my lap the whole time. She's going to do her turning round to try and get comfortable, or she's now going to go and try and get out the door, which is now shut. Talking about food waste and finding different ways of using things. One of my lockdown favourite things was pancakes. So we discovered American pancakes during lockdown. I have perfected the art of cooking them, and it's now become a Sunday tradition. American pancakes are great for using up any leftover fruit that you've got. So I have made blueberry pancakes, I've made pineapple ones, I've made them with banana, as I said earlier, strawberries, any fruit that you've got lying around, any soft fruit, chop it up, put it in the batter, and then make the pancakes. I've got a recipe for American pancakes, and I shared it on my Facebook page a couple of weeks ago. So if you scroll through my Facebook page, or if you've got the search function, if you're on a PC, you can search it and you'll find it. But think about ways of using them up, and then you can freeze them. So if you can make a whole batch, and I often make extra, pop them in the freezer, and the children have them as part of their packed lunch. So better than taking a chocolate bar. And again, no packaging. I'm not sending them in with anything with a wrapper. I'm sending them in with things that I've cooked at home. So let me just go back and see if I can see anything else that I haven't spoken about. Got a few things here. I think in the kitchen, it's really easy to find shortcuts and find the easier ways. I think now we're so used to things being easy. We've got all of these like Gusto and HelloFresh, all of these services where you pay a monthly subscription and they send you your meals with the recipes, which are brilliant. And as I said, we're all time poor and we could all do with more time. But I think you need to think of the knock-on of the implications of this. And those boxes, the amount of packaging, and they are trying to reduce the packaging, but because they're packaging things in such small quantities, so they're only sending you a tiny amount of cumin, a tiny amount of paprika, they're only sending you a garlic clove, and so the amount of packaging that these companies generate, and yes, it's saving us time, but the long-term implications, I think that's what we need to be more mindful of. Again, in the kitchen, I've recently got rid of cling film. So I have got rid of cling film, and you know what? I haven't missed it at all. So I made a decision earlier this year that I wasn't going to buy any more cling film. And actually, it used to drive me mad anyway, because I was rubbish at cutting it. I never did it properly. It always ended up all round, and I could never find the end. So I completely got rid of cling film, and I now use, I've actually got them here, I've now used beeswax wraps, which I was a bit reluctant about to start with, but they're brilliant because they stick to themselves. They're fantastic for wrapping sandwiches. They're easy to wash. I just rub them under the tap. Give them a rub after I've used them. They come in different sizes. I use them in the fridge to cover things, or I use them, as I said, if I'm sending my children in with packed lunches. They're really good. They're a really good swap, and I've had these now since the beginning of the year. And I don't know how many of them I bought cling film, but definitely a good investment. And these ones came with a bar of the wax. So you can, I need to look into how to do it, but you can re-wax them. So beeswax wraps, really easy swap. I also now save all of my bread bags. So any bags that bread or rolls come in, I save and I use them. So I often, I put my cheese in it in the fridge, because when I open the cheese, the wrapper I can never do up again. might send the children to school with packed lunches in it, but I don't throw away any of these. I reuse them. Freeze my breadcrumbs in these in the freezer. So don't throw these away. You can't buy bread without it being in, plastic packaging. Maybe that will change in the future. But if you do get it, don't just use it once. Don't use it and throw it away. Try and utilise it in the kitchen. Sandwich bags. I don't buy them anymore. I haven't bought sandwich bags for over a year, but I do have some. And sometimes, my mum will bring some cakes round or something, and she'll bring them round in a sandwich bag, or I've got some left over from before. And I now do something that years ago I laughed at. And we went to Stockwood Museum, which is a museum in Luton, and it had a section about what people do. And I think it may have been linked to recycling and things, but it was quite a long time ago, and it wasn't really something I was thinking of. And there was this post from a man, and he'd written about how he hasn't bought any sandwich bags for years, because what he does is he washes them out and he reuses them. And I remember I was with a friend, we both had our toddlers with us, and we looked at him and we were like, who would ever do that? They're only cheap. Why would you bother? Well, now I do exactly that. So I wash my sandwich bags. I've then got a tall radiator in my kitchen, pop them on top of the radiator to dry, and then I reuse them. So there are lots and lots of little things that we can do. There are lots of little things we can do in order to try and reduce the impact, the negative impact we're having on the environment. And as I said, I'm not a saint. I don't have, I'm not completely plastic free. I still use plastic pots. I've still got them for my leftovers and things. I have got some glass ones, so I do have some. But I don't want to throw away all my plastic ones, because again, I think that's really wasteful to throw away the plastic ones and replace them. So I won't buy any more plastic ones, and I will, replace them with glass ones, when I need to buy new ones, but I'm not going to throw them all away. Another thing I do is tea bags. So you can buy tea bags now which have no plastic in them. For my normal teas, for my everyday, my breakfast tea, I still use normal tea bags. But I'm quite partial to like a lemon and ginger tea or a mint tea. And so I bought one of these, but actually my husband bought it for me for my birthday. It's brilliant. So little cup, on the top of it, you've got this, which I use loose leaf tea. We've got a lovely local company called Twist Teas, which are brilliant and do really fantastic flavours in loose leaf tea. So you can either put your loose leaf tea in there, or in the summer I had a fantastic mint plant in the garden, so put some fresh mint leaves in it, or some lemon and ginger in it. But again, it's all those little changes, and I think that's what we all need to realise. It's not about everybody doing it perfectly, it's about each of us doing something. So if we all made one small change, it will make a massive difference. And the kitchen is a place where it is really, really easy to make those changes. And what I'm going to do now is, I've been talking for a long time, and although I'm very good at talking, I think I'm going to wind up now, because what I want to do is I want to share some recipes with you from my website. So, thank you for joining, and for anyone else who comes along to the page and watch this at a later date. Tray bake recipes are a big part of my cooking. Use tray bakes a lot. I'm currently working, quite keeps on cutting out. I'll get my husband to check the internet after I've finished on here. So I'm not sure if it's our internet or whether it's a problem with Facebook, but it does keep cutting me out, which is really annoying, because I'm not a fan of doing lives anyway. But anyway, sorry I keep disappearing. It is very annoying. But I was talking about quesadillas, and I am actually going to cook one for you later and do like a bit of a live cook along. Quesadillas are a fantastic way of using up any leftovers that you've got. So all you need is some tortilla wraps and anything you've got lying around. So this afternoon I'm going to make some cheese ones. So I'm going to use tinned beans. Tinned beans, amazing. Actually, tinned and frozen food, don't discount it, because it actually, in some circumstances, is better than the fresh variety. So I'm going to make quesadillas with some tinned beans, some cheese, and I've got some spinach going in it, and I've got some spring onions. So after I've finished on here, what I'll do is I'll come back on in an hour, and I will do a live cook along. So I will show you how to make quesadillas, and hopefully my internet won't start coming out. But before I go, actually, while I'm talking about vegetables, fruits and vegetables, and which ones are better, I actually did some research on this a little while ago. So strawberries lose 30% of their vitamin C content after harvesting. So when you're eating fresh strawberries, you need to eat them straight away. Sometimes in the supermarket they've been hanging around for longer than that anyway. So don't dismiss when you're making smoothies and you're having them in your yogurt. Don't dismiss frozen strawberries because they actually have a higher vitamin C content than the fresh ones you're buying off the supermarket shelves. Frozen peas. Frozen peas have exactly the same vitamin C content. So frozen peas, and actually if your fresh peas have been lying around for a long time, they'll have lost a lot of their vitamin C. Spinach actually again loses its vitamin C when stored. So frozen spinach, I always have frozen spinach in the freezer. Great for adding to sauces, add it to lasagna, add it to bolognese, add it to your pasta sauces. So frozen spinach, always have that in the freezer. Much less waste because it doesn't really go off. It will last for ages in the freezer. Tinned salmon. So tinned fish, it went a bit out of fashion. I remember my grandma always had tinned fish. Tinned fish is really good for you, and tinned salmon, because of the bones, because you eat the bones, has a much higher vitamin D content than fresh. So, buy some tins of salmon, use it in pasta, use it, for lunch in your sandwiches and things. It's better than buying ham and throwing it away. Have a tin of salmon. What was my other one? Oh, sweet corn. Frozen sweet corn has much higher antioxidant levels. And the other one is tinned tomatoes. Now, tinned tomatoes do have less vitamin C content than fresh tomatoes, so that is true. But tinned tomatoes have higher levels of lycosene. And lycosene, if you look it up, really, really good for you, has some amazing properties. So don't dismiss buying tinned and frozen. It's often cheaper than buying fresh, and you'll have a lot less food waste. So I'm going to stop there. So thank you to the people who joined live. If you're watching this on catch up, thank you very much. If you have any questions, put it in the comments. I'm really sorry it kept cutting out. I'm not sure if that was Facebook or if it was me, but I will look into it. And I will go live again at just before 12 o'clock. And what I'll do is I'll go live in my kitchen and I will show you how to make quesadillas. And I will also post the recipe for quesadillas, and I will post the sausage tray bake recipe for you to enjoy. So enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Thanks Sustainability Bedford for letting me come along. Thank you for inviting me and letting me talk to people. If you want to find out a bit more about me, my Facebook page is Delicious and Real. I've also got a website and I'm also on Instagram, so you can find me on there. I'd love for you to pop along and say hello. So in the meantime, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I might see some of you later when I go live with my cook along.